City Council, June the 29th, 2022, and it is exactly 5 o'clock. So we welcome everyone who has joined us here. We have 3 council members, so we have a quorum. We have 2 other council members who are currently out of town. So we'll turn our time over to our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to give you a little history, every year we receive our tax rate from the county. This year was probably about 10 days ago, stating this is what your tax rate will be for this year. Our tax rate, generally speaking, will move down as the assessed valuation of our city increases. If our assessed valuation decreases, which has happened in, I think, 2010, 11, that era, then our rate actually increases. And the idea is that the city will remain somewhat revenue neutral on the property tax year after year. If the city chooses to do something with their tax rate to increase it other than what the county number we have been given, then it starts a process called truth in taxation. So what we have, and for the city to do truth in taxation, we need to declare what our proposed tax rate will be. So the city council today will need to give a proposed tax rate, and then we will turn that over to the county, and then we'll go through the truth in taxation process, which has specific noticing requirements, and we'll have a public hearing, which I think right now, if we choose to head this route, would be August 2nd. Okay, so that's Tuesday, August 2nd, 6 o'clock p.m. would be right here. So what you have in front of you is a spreadsheet that has some options on it for the city council to consider. Generally speaking, our tax rate, our assessed valuation year over year goes up about 10%. This year was a bit unusual. Our tax rate went up 32%. So if we were to actually keep the same tax rate we had last year, it will show up as a 32% increase on the property tax bill. So once the council sets a rate, we turn that over to the county. The county will print a notice, and those notices go out usually about the 3rd week of July to notify the public of the intentions of the city. If the city accepts the county tax rate, which they've given us, then all it says is, here's what you're going to be paying. And it's usually not much different than what you paid the year before. If the city council chooses to go above that number, then it will say on the notice, this is the % increase that the city is proposing. Here is how many dollars per year that the resident would pay. And then it will also list the public hearing date and time on that notice. So for instance, if the city council said we want to hold our rate on the property tax bill, it will say, it will show the same rate, but because most people have seen an increase in their assessed valuation, then it will show it as a 32% increase, and then it will say this is how much it will be per year. And then it will have our date for our truth in taxation. So we've created options for the city council to consider. So we have an option if we were to hold our rate, which would be 32%. We have an option at 20%, 15%, and 10%. As we've had this discussion in the past, is this something that we want to do? And if we do this, what would the additional revenues go towards? The intention would be for public safety, specifically more personnel, new personnel for police and for fire, and then also for road maintenance. And so that's exactly how much money would be allocated to that, I think would still be something that could be considered, depending on what direction the city council wants to go with that. So I think that's been our intention, that we would fund those essential services with this tax increase. So let me just go over some numbers with you for a 32% increase. It would be 80, okay, sorry, this is on an average size home. So the county gives us what the average home is in our community, which is $551,800. So if your assessed valuation is $551,800, these numbers will specifically apply to you. If your valuation is $350,000, your number will be less than what I'm gonna share. And if your valuation is, let's say, $750,000, then it will be more. And it's all just on the sliding scale of what our rate is versus what your assessed valuation is. So on an average home, that would be $85.58 per year or $7.13 per month. That would generate $1,048,272,000 of revenue. If we did a 20% increase, meaning the rate that the county gave us, if we went 20% above that rate, that would be $53.29 a year, or $4.44 a month. And the revenue generated from that would be $652,754. If we did 15%, it would be $39.97 per year. That would be $3.33 per month, and that would generate $489,565. If the city council chose a 10%, it would be $26.65 over the year, $2.22 per month. Revenue generated would be $326,377. As the council decides what they want the rate to be, and it goes on the notice, and you have your public hearing, you always have the option after that public hearing to choose whatever rate you want, as long as it does not exceed the rate that you pick today. So if you were to go 32% today, and after some feedback from the public, and you wanted to reduce that after your hearing on the 2nd, it would actually be 2 weeks later. On the 16th will be when you make your decision. You could reduce that, you could stay with it. At that point, city council can decide. But we cannot go over the 32% unless the council decides to set a rate today that's over 32%. Okay, so are there any questions?
On the numbers.
On numbers or process, or anything like that?
Probably for later. I was going to ask you the why, right? Why? I mean, what's our police officers per 1,000, right?
Yeah.
The average, and then fire calls. I mean, so we're asking for whatever option we choose here. What does that mean to us? Why?
Yes,
right?
thank you. So let's say if we were to add 2 new police officers. Right now, according to the numbers we have, it shows that in Utah County, we have the least officers per 1,000 in the county.
We have the least.
The least.
Okay.
Now, there is one city that was not part of that, and I think that was Payson. Everybody else has their own police agency or is with the sheriff's department. So that would help. I mean, we have always felt that we are short-staffed when it comes to police. So this would be a way to help catch up. Now, when I say catch up, I know other cities are adding more police officers too this budget year. And so, and it's not necessarily like we have to keep up with everybody in that sense, but we do continue to add population to our community. We continue to grow commercially, which grows our daytime population. I think there's justification for new police officers in our community. With firefighters, it's the same. We've seen an increase in the number of calls over the course of the years. And probably the big thing, and this is a little nuanced, but right now we do a crew of 6, so we have 4 full-timers and 2 part-timers on each shift. Now that's if we can get part-timers right now, and this isn't just fire. I mean, this is all over the city. Sometimes to get part-time staff is a challenge. We always make sure that we have at least 5 on staff. That's what we need, 3 to run the engine or the tiller, and 2 to run an ambulance on any given call. And so normally we have 6, so that if we're ever short one, then we're still going to be able to make calls. If we get another full-time position, our crew would now bump up to 7. So if we had, in an ideal world, we'd have every shift, we'd have 2 part-timers and 5 full-timers. And the benefit of that is what we call stacked calls. So if we get a call and we send 5 out to the emergency, we leave 2 back at the station, so that while that crew is out, if we get a second ambulance call, then those 2 can handle that ambulance call. So stack calls right now, because we don't have 7 on a shift, we have to ask American Fork or just mutual aid, so it might be Orem, that is gonna pick up those calls. That's revenue we lose out every time we make a ambulance call. Generally speaking, there's a revenue that comes with that if we're gonna transport somebody. And so, I can't tell you exactly how much money that would mean, but we do know that we have stat calls. Any given month, we have, a couple dozen stat calls. So this would help with that. If we had 5 full-timers and 2 part-timers, then we'd be able to pick that up. Now, if we're still struggling to get part-timers, then maybe we're only gonna have 6. And if part-time is really a problem, we'll at least have 5 full-timers on staff, meaning we'll be fully staffed. And so that helps. That helps response times when we have to call American Fork or Orem. Those response times tend to be a couple minutes longer than if we're responding out of our own station. So there is a gap there to consider. And then our road maintenance, which we've talked about extensively in our community. We do have a lot of maintenance needs. In fact, we did a study a few years back that said that in order to catch up on our roads, we need $3.8 million a year put into our roads. And we don't fully fund that. Now, we adopted a transportation utility fee at one time.
Scott, do we fully fund any of our services? That's a fair question,
when you look
right?
at utilities like water, sewer, storm drain, we don't. We
does
have
any
capital
city-
plans that have tens of millions of dollars, and we just bite off what we can chew. And so to fully fund roads would be ideal, but right now, unless we did a substantial tax increase, even the road fee that we had implemented at one time was not bridging that gap fully. It was sure helpful.
It got us to 3.2 or something like that.
Yeah, something like when you throw our Class C monies on there, the general fund contribution, the sales tax money we get from the county, and you add all that up, with the road fee, we were over 3 million. The road fee is in litigation right now, and so the status of that, we'll probably find out here in the next few months. But what this would do, if the city council chooses to adopt a rate higher than what we have, would give the city council flexibility to put more money into road maintenance. Sorry, Eric, that was kind of a long answer for
No,
your question.
You're good.
Any other questions, Eric?
No, so anytime you hear property tax, right, it drums up a lot of questions, right, and concerns. As a resident myself, brings up concerns of what does that mean to me, right? What does that mean to me on a monthly basis? Why? That's why I was asking the why. What's this for? And each option has its different whys to it. We're no longer a small city. Pleasant Grove's not a small city. We're coming up on 40,000 people. We see and we hear all the increased calls, whether it's on the police side, whether it's on the fire side, we hear it and we see it. And it's hard for us to say we're trying to keep a certain level of service at a certain point for so long at a rate that's so old that I'm looking through the notes that we can't even find when the last time we even did a property tax increase, right? And so it's hard, so that's why I'm just asking some of these questions, Scott, and so.
And I just want to clarify, sorry, on the property tax increase, a council-driven property tax increase. We have had GO bonds
Sure.
where the residents have voted in.
We're talking about.
Which is a property tax, but specifically truth in taxation, council-driven. To our research, we have not been able to find.
So another
city
big
council.
concern is probably going to come up, and we hear this all the time from other cities. Is this the whole portion of the property tax, or is this the city's portion of property tax? And what is the city's percentage or part?
Yeah, generally speaking, if your property tax bill was $2,000, probably about, I mean, it fluctuates a little bit, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15% would go to Pleasant Grove City. So you, out of that $2,000, 300 of that would go to PG City. School district is the lion's share of the property tax. The county gets a portion, and then we have some smaller districts that get a little bit of the property tax.
So I think that's where some of the misinformation comes out, or people not understanding that we're talking about this 12 to 15% of the city bill.
Yeah, we don't have authority to raise property taxes for anybody else, so you do have authority to handle the property tax for Pleasant Grove City, so that's the only portion of the bill that you have control of. I don't know if other entities are considering a tax increase. We'll find out when we get our notices in July, who is, but no, it would be only on the Pleasant Grove City portion.
I mean, we know that other neighboring cities are having the same struggles, are going through the same process.
Yeah, according to research that we've looked at, there's at least 5 cities, might be up to 6. I mean, I was surveying the other cities just in Utah County alone that were either holding their rate or maybe not fully holding the rate and coming a little bit down, but above their rate that they are given from the county. So they are going through the truth in taxation process as well. So what cities are finding is because as our tax rate drops and the valuations go up and we stay revenue neutral, we lose buying power over time because our costs do go up. And so if property tax stays revenue neutral, we fall behind. Generally speaking, we rely on the sales tax to help pick up the slack. Sales tax has been fine the last few years, but I mean, sales tax fluctuates. And for those that were here in 2009 and 2010 and 2011, we saw decreases in sales tax for the first time in a long time. And that impacts the city budget because then you have to look at your other revenue sources, and property tax is our second largest source as far as that's concerned.
What I'm amazed of is that we have had 30, 40 years of no property tax increases. So we're here and citizens, and I talk to them, they're concerned specifically about the roads.
Yeah.
And if they live in one of those roads and they have to use their ATV to get to their homes, they certainly have some reasons to complain. But how can we address these issues? And citizens are concerned about, and property tax seems to be this sacred cow out there, that we don't touch that. Where in fact, in the last argument that I heard when I was not on the city council, individuals said, you know, don't do what you want to do now, but you need to raise property taxes to do this. So here we are with the decision of raising property taxes, and I suspect there's people in this room who say we don't want that touched. And so how, I mean, we really need to make some decisions as that we can meet the needs of the roads.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we said, the road fee was a window of opportunity for us to do that. That, at least right now, has been suspended.
Yeah.
So in order to do something with police and fire, that's a general fund expense.
Yep.
And so sales tax is general fund revenue, and so is property tax. Those are our 2 biggest generators. We use sales tax to fund a lot of other, I mean, we have more than police and fire in our city. So we fund a lot of other things through the sales tax and through the property tax. So our ability to raise revenue is limited. In general fund, it's the property tax. We have control over that. We do also have franchise taxes, which cities have control over. Last time we changed one of those was, and they have a cap, and most cities have capped out on what the franchise tax allows. We have capped out on what we can do on a franchise tax. Other than that, you have fees, and fees have to go to a specific service. So if you pay a water bill, you have a water fee, a sewer fee, a storm drain fee. Those go into specific funds for those services. We can't increase a water fee and turn around and hire a police officer with that money. We're not allowed to do that. And so that's, when a city council has decisions like this to make, then they have to review the portfolio of what your ability is to raise revenue. And this is why I think cities, for the longest time, stayed away from the property tax, but eventually you pay the piper. And I think that's why we have 6 or 7 cities in Utah County alone that are going to be going through truth and taxation, because they have put it off for a long time, and they're starting to feel it. I don't know if this is here nor there, but when you get your property tax notice, if you turn on the back side of that notice, it shows the last time every city's went through truth and taxation and since 2010. And when you look at it, Pleasant Grove says never or not, I can't remember. So we haven't done it. And I think Springville was the other one, but every other entity,
I think it was Cedar Fort or
Cedar
something.
Fort,
Yeah.
one of the smaller towns. So there was 3 entities, municipalities, that had never done that, and we were one of those 3. Now that's a good thing. We can hang our hat on the fact that we're just not raising taxes every turn. But other cities have said, we're struggling for revenue, we need to use this avenue. And so most cities in the last 20 years have been through this process. We did, when we talked about our public safety building at first, we went through the truth and taxation process all the way up through the public hearing, and the council decided not to implement the tax after the public hearing. So we have been through this process, but at that time it was not adopted. So that's why it still shows that we have not fully been through the truth and taxation process.
So we're a city of services, right? Someone asks us, we're a city of services. Anytime I turn on my tap water, flush the toilet, storm drain, anytime I need to pick up the phone and call the police or the fire, right? Call 911. That's health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, right? And so that's, I think, why we're looking at this, of hiring whether it's 1, 2, or 3 officers, 1, 2, 3 firefighters, right? And then we've talked about roads. But that's essential for us, is the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. And I think our fire and police have done an amazing job with the limited funds that we've given them over the years, right? And it's about time we start looking what we can do to help them and help our citizens make this community better. So it's a hard decision, right?
To clear up an issue, this is not to raise salaries.
No, well, ultimately the council is going to decide. I think the intent would be for new employees.
New
New hires.
employees.
Yeah, so
New
no,
hires.
the intent is not to use this for salary increases.
And I'll throw in some thoughts here. I've been taking notes in my brain for a couple weeks here. And I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to actually be in this conversation. It's meant a lot to me. I'm also really glad that there's some citizens here, because hopefully what will be represented will be the truth. And I'm very hopeful that the truth will be shared on social media. I have actually been searching for what's right for Pleasant Grove. So Pleasant Grove City is our corporation, and we're shareholders in it. And whenever we make a decision and allocate funds, it's for the health of that entity, and the entity is to serve us. It is what you said, Eric. It is that when we make a phone call, when the sewer backs up, when the water is flooding, when someone that you love needs emergency services, that someone will show up. One thing that I always keep coming back to is that crime has changed So 20 years ago when 30 years ago when I moved in, it was, and Judge knows this, it was a DUI. Now it's meth and heroin, shooting, a lot of suicides. When COVID first started, 70% of domestic violence calls, we had a substantial increase in calls. And when I first started, we get our report at 6 a.m. that tells us what the calls were that came through overnight. And when I first came on, they were between 3 and 5 pages of line items. And there was one a couple of weeks ago that was 33 pages. And we're doing that with the same amount of men and women. And so call volumes, so we're at the bottom of the barrel of personnel, but also we are not able to keep that 10-year guy. This is the employee that has worked for us for 10 years or more. That's the human that you want to respond to your calls. That's the one. And we've been taxing them for a long time on the sacrifice to the city. So I'm thinking, I have all of these things I've been mulling in my head. Of course, we've talked about the roads. I want to fund the roads. I want to have the sufficient amount of employees in our public safety to respond at the level of service that we have wanted. Anyway, I am grateful that I have the opportunity to be a part of the team that makes this decision.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, council?
Nope.
You know, we've kicked this around for a while and talked about it with each other and in groups of twos and whatever. And really, I see option one as as just holding the rate. You know, we got Spanish Fork, who has a whole lot more sales tax and revenue to us, and they hold the rate every year. And I assume they're gonna do it again this year, just not a percentage, but they're holding the rate. And I can see why, because we've witnessed, if we don't do something, then we go backwards. We lose ground. And it's the same reason Alpine School District holds their rate, is because if they don't, they lose on their assessed evaluation and they go back. They can't function. And I really like option one, because it's just holds our rate to where our rate was last year. But yes, it does add another $1 million, but it does put as $400,000 in roads, and I think we figured it would be three police officers and 3 firemen that would fund ongoing, and it's something we really need. But okay, we're in, you know, inflation's hit, and I understand the county, and and it's talked to a county commissioner, and they're going to hold the rate in December, or a percentage of, because inflation is just beating them up. They can't.
The interesting thing with that is what I was contemplating, is that even if we're in a recession, the roads still deteriorate, and the calls come in harder and faster.
Probably more.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I like that, but we're,
The difference here is like $4.44 to $7.13.
$2.69 difference.
It's what?
$2.69 a month difference between the two.
And, but, you know, I see, you know, hey, everybody's being hit, fuel prices are up, you know, I look at that $85 for a year. Geez, that's not even a tank of gas for this week, okay? And to put it in perspective, it's really not a tank of gas. Now, that's on average house. I quickly calculated there. I was just kind of trying to remember what my percentage was on Pleasant Grove taxes, not my whole tax bill. A lot of people say, oh, geez, our taxes are gonna go up 32%. No, it's Pleasant Grove, and I run the number on mine, and hey, I'm a business owner, and it's probably gonna hit me about $400 next year, and hey, I'm glad to do it. But, you know, we have these times where we're high inflation, and maybe it isn't we hold the rate. And we do another percentage here, and then next year come back with another percentage, because if you ask me, this isn't just this year. This is something I think we'll be taking a hard look at every year going forward, because it doesn't work out. So anyway, that's where your mayor is, and I don't have a vote. But I'd like to see option one, but I'll leave it up to the council to propose something here, and we'll go forward with it. And I'll support you in whatever you do.
So what we have is a resolution in front of you.
That's right.
And so as a motion's made, if you want to give the percent, and then we'll, you know, fill in the numbers, what the percent and the tax rate and what that looks like, so.
So the resolution reads that reason why you're here this evening, resolution number 2022-038, a resolution proposing a certified tax rate for the city of Pleasant Grove for fiscal year 2023, July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. So council, where do you want to set our rate that we can get back to the county?
Discussion.
They want to make a
So,
motion?
just really quick, yeah, looking over all four options, I'm comfortable with option 2, I think is what's listed here, which would bring 2 firefighters, 2 police, and about roughly $250,000 towards roads. I think that adds up to like $4.44, if the numbers are correct.
Yeah, that's what you have.
I don't
The
know what that
average size.
means to the resolution, what you'd have to say, but I'm willing to hear what others have to say.
I would be in favor of going with option 1, which would be $2.69 more a month from your proposition. Eric?
Okay.
Now, I realize public hearing, that may change.
Yes. Yeah, for the purposes of tonight, it's not a public hearing tonight.
But then that,
This is setting the rate. If you come in at 32% after your public hearing in August, then you can choose whatever you want underneath the 32%.
so that leaves 3 other options.
Well, it leaves you with 32 options, I guess,
Yeah,
if you win
yeah,
at 1%
yeah.
increments.
Yeah,
We just round them off at 20, 15, and 10.
okay.
But you could do 5, you could do 12, you could do 17.
I mean, mayor's talked on it. I mean, cities are having this issue and discussion. It's hard. Property taxes is a hard discussion, and it's hard for us to go over it because we have neighbors, we have friends that all want to know why, right? And that's what I'm saying is, that's why I'm comfortable with option 2, is because then we could have a discussion next year about this. Like Spanish Fork and other cities have this discussion every year. And I think this is something that the cities probably should have been doing all along, having this hard discussion every year. And so that's why I'm comfortable with that option of not biting off that big of a amount and talking about 2 fire, 2 police, and 250 to roads.
Well, with that,
That's where I'm at.
why don't you put a motion out there for
I just
for
don't know
that,
that,
and we'll
am I
see if we
supposed, is there a,
can, we have a second.
is there a certified or anything? I'll read it, and if I need to be
The
corrected.
Certified rate's there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have to read the certified rate that's listed on the option that
Oh,
you're
that's
choosing,
associated with the new rate that, okay,
because
I got it.
The resolution is already set for option one. So if you're
Oh.
gonna change it, you need to propose the
So
new
Eric,
tax rate.
for that, it would, the rate would be 0.00100536 if you're talking about the 20%. That's the rate the city would establish.
Read it, oh, hold the rate at 10536, 0010536, okay. All right, so I'll make a grab at this. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2022-38, adopting the certified tax rate for the 2022-23 budget, holding the rate at .0010536, which would come out to $4.44 a month.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second by Councilmember Anderson. And this being a resolution, it will be a roll call vote. And we have, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
What else do you need from us, Scott?
That's all we need for
all we
tonight.
need.
All we need.
We will be putting information out to let the citizens know that this is the intent of the city council. We're planning on, probably, we'll do an open house. I think we're looking in late June, maybe the week before our public hearing.
July.
Or sorry, July, thank you. Late June would be tomorrow.
Today.
So,
Information can be had on our website, I'm assuming,
yeah,
social
we're working
media.
on setting up a web page that's gonna have information that people can go to. It's not set up yet, but, I mean, we'll get that up soon. And, you know, have opportunity for people to send questions in and do what we can to answer questions. As
I-
staff, we can answer whatever questions somebody sends our way. So,
I just hope, Mayor, I just hope that, yeah, we'll get the information out and hope that people have questions, they can come to us, they can email, whatever, on social media too, and know that this affects just our city portion of the city bill. Because I know that when other cities and information goes out, people assume that it's going to affect their overall bill. And I just want to, I can't say this enough, and I think you're probably in agreement that it's our city portion. And some people are going to get scared thinking it's the full portion, but it's not. It's what we're in control of.
Thank you. So with that, if there's, we have nothing else on the agenda for this special meeting, so I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried.